Welcome to the Wright Family Law Divorce Podcast. I'm your host, Ellen Wright, attorney, author, entrepreneur, and motivational speaker. This is the Wright Family Law Divorce Podcast. Let's get started. Hi, welcome to episode 17 of the Wright Family Law Divorce Podcast. Today we have with us Rachel Jones, who is a TikTok sensation, sharing her experience, her strength, her journey through abuse, and her evolution into strength and recovery from her childhood trauma. Rachel, welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
So your story, just, your life sort of story that you've been sharing on TikTok has just inspired so many people, and you've gathered about 12,000 followers and counting, and just a lot of people have been touched by your past, your present, and everything that you've been through. So to start off, why don't you share a little bit more about your childhood and the experiences you had with your family? I know you shared on TikTok that you had an abusive father and a really toxic grandmother. And why don't you share, just to start off with, your background and, your early childhood experiences?
So I grew up in what they consider a cold household. I don't remember a lot of joy, a lot of laughter. My parents were not affectionate at all. I can't even tell you when they even hugged each other. My dad was an alcoholic. He also was a marijuana user. And it seemed like, I don't know if he was always like that, because my parents were together for 23 years. So I don't know if it started out like that, but from my understanding, from my conversations with my mom, it pretty much took place after he got hurt working for the city of Dallas. He used to be a pipe fitter, and the abuse pretty much started there. So I think that he couldn't handle the fact that he just was not able to be a provider anymore. My mom also explained to me he did have a jealous streak as well, which I did see some of the times. Like, my mom wasn't allowed to drive. My mom actually taught herself how to drive when she got in her 40s, and this was after he died. So he was very strict in a lot of ways. He believed that a woman should be heard. I mean, shouldn't be heard. And it wasn't a pleasant experience. I witnessed times where he would be very abusive towards my mom, verbally and physically. With that being said, my mom tried to stay away as much as possible. She really wasn't a talkative person when it came to their relationship. It was whatever he said goes. While my mom was at work, most of the time, if he was under the influence of alcohol, or just if he woke up in a bad mood, or he took it out on me. So I was the next in line, whether it be verbally or it could be physically, however he was feeling at the moment. Now, it wasn't all abusive. We did have good moments, but it was literally just moments. And most of those moments were when he was not under the influence of alcohol, or if we was around other people. He was the world's best dad. But behind closed doors, it was just a different story. We didn't celebrate holidays. It wasn't ideal. Like, it was almost like a lifetime story.
Now, how many brothers and sisters did you have growing up?
So technically it's me, my baby sister, but I do have two older siblings, but they had their own father. So me and my baby sister have the same father.
Got it. So it was the four of you in the house with your abusive dad?
Me and my baby sister, my oldest siblings, because my mom had them kind of young at age, they resided with my grandmother.
So when you say your abusive father, you were next in line for the abuse. Did your mother do anything to protect you, or?
Most of the time when it happened, my mom wasn't there. Like, my mom worked a lot, like, because she was the sole provider. Like, my dad, he received Social Security, but that really wasn't a lot. So my mom worked a lot. And most of the time when the abuse happened was when we was under the care of him while she was at work. I remember times, like one in particular time, I broke a glass while he was asleep. And he woke up in such rage. And I was so scared. And he came in, he grabbed me and asked me what happened. I told him, I was like, I broke a glass. But the tremor and the fear that you heard in my voice, like I just automatically knew that was it. Like that was gonna be the end of it. And he slapped me repeatedly
Mhm.
so hard that my face kind of swollen up a little bit. And the only thing I remember him saying was, "You better not tell your mama what happened." So he was putting ice packs on my face to try to get my swelling down on my face, just so my mom would know. Because my mom didn't, I think at the time she was working till like 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And this was right after school started. So a lot of the abuse that happened with my dad, my mom didn't know what was really going on because I was too scared to tell. And I feared that if I did tell my mom and she questioned him, then he was going to he was going to retaliate against her. So a
Right.
lot of this my mom didn't even know until I got older, up in age.
Right. Right. Now, you had said that your father died, and how old were you when he died?
I was 11.
And how did he die?
My dad had seizures. He was also a type 2 diabetic. And he found out through the autopsy that he also had congestive heart failure.
Right.
So the day that he died, me and him I had an altercation before school because of what I had on. And I told my dad that I hated him. The day that he died, I told him that I hated him and I hoped he died. That was just how I felt because I was tired of it.
Right.
So we was at school and the principal came in and got me, and she already had my baby sister, and she brought us to the office, and she was like, I'm gonna take y'all home. And I was like, "Oh, okay," because usually my mom would come pick us up or meet us or whatever because she couldn't drive, so she would walk to meet us at school. So I was like, "Oh, okay." So the principal took us home, and when we got there, the ambulance was there, the fire truck was there. My mom was just looking spaced out, like she didn't know what to tell us. And we see my dad getting rolled out on the stretcher, covered up, and
Mhm.
my mom tried to explain to us that he died. From what we was told and based off the autopsy, he had a seizure first, and then after the seizure, he had a heart attack, and that's what killed him.
Mhm. What was the fallout from all of that? I mean, he had been abusive to your mother as well. So, I mean, was there a lot of grief, confusion, regret, or was it really relief in the household?
I'm gonna say it was a mixture of everything. You can tell that my mom was relieved. I actually feel like if my mom if my dad would have never passed, I do feel like my mom probably would have retaliated against him because she was just tired of the abuse and didn't know how to leave, when to leave.
Mm,
So I feel like everything happens for a reason. God knew I needed my mother more than I need him in my life.
mm,
So I feel like that's partially the reason, you know, sense of relief came.
mhm.
I see like it's my mom got her color back. She started being more outgoing, more vibrant. But then at the same time, I feel like it was anger on my end as well because I was like, I understand you. I went through all this with my dad, but you stayed or whatever. And my mom moved on fairly quick. Like 6 months later, I want to say 6 months later to a year, my stepdad came into my life. So I was like, I didn't have no time to grieve or nothing like that. Like, it's like the day after the memorial, she was like, okay, well, it's done.
Right.
Let's move on with our lives. She got rid of everything in the house, everything that belonged to him.
Mhm.
Gone.
So after he passed, your mother's mother got brought into the equation, grandma. And how did that sort of play into it?
my grandmother became very sick. She was also a type 2 diabetic. She also got diagnosed with Alzheimer's and stuff like that. So I feel like because my mom was the oldest, well, the oldest girl, she felt like she was responsible for her. And pretty much her brothers and sisters kinda threw it on her like, look, mom needs help. You need to help her.
Mhm.
So my mom, moved her into the house, and then the verbal abuse started all over again with her.
So it
At
was
that
it's a
age,
minute. So it's almost like your abusive father died, and the abuse almost just picked up where it left off when grandma got brought in.
yep, exactly. Like, my memories of her, she was a very mean and just hateful lady. And it was only towards me and my baby sister, my cousins, didn't receive that same type of treatment.
Mm.
They were held up on a high pedestal. Whatever my cousins wanted to do, we had to do. My cousins wanted to play dolls, I had to play dolls, and that wasn't my thing. Like, I wasn't into dolls and stuff like that. And if I didn't listen to either her or play with my cousin, the whoopings came.
Right,
And I would get sent by myself. Okay, if you don't want to play with them, I'm gonna whoop you and I'm gonna send you by yourself.
right.
So that's how it was growing up with her. Cause during the breaks, we used to go spend the month, summer break, spring break with her or whatever. And then she actually moved in with us. It wasn't more so of the physical abuse with her, it was more verbal abuse with her.
Mhm.
It's pretty much like she tried to pave my life on how my life was gonna be. She called me lesbian. She called me dykes and said I was no amount to nothing and I was gonna have a busload of kids and nobody was gonna never want me.
And this was
It's
sort of
like
the
she was
repeat.
projecting what she went through.
This was sort of the repeat of what your mother had gone through with her, right? Like, your
Is that
grandmother projected on your mother's whole life. So, how did your mother's history of abuse by grandma impact your family dynamics? I mean, maybe even as to your dad. I mean, your mother experienced all of this trauma as a child from her mother. So, did she have the wherewithal? Did that affect her wherewithal to maybe even like leave your dad before he died?
honestly, I don't think that everything that my mom went through, I feel like it crumbled her and it made her so sheltered. I feel like my mom, you know how a puppy, how you discipline them and they just kind of cower up and tuck their tail and just run for cover?
Mhm,
I believe the same effect that they had with my mom.
mhm,
She was just too scared to talk, too scared to let anybody know what was going on, too scared to leave. And I feel like she had that fire in her, but n- by her not communicating, by her not having any help, she was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna take it. It's not killing me. I'm just gonna take it. Whatever you want me to do, I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna try to raise my kids. Hopefully my kids see what's going on and not go through the same thing in their adult life.
mhm,
Not only that, I kind of believe that, well, I'm not gonna say that. One thing I am gonna say is in our community, the Black community,
mhm,
we don't believe in therapy and stuff like that. Like people feel like, you'll be all right. You're okay. Yeah, it happened, but I mean, it could be worse. It's always an excuse. And with those excuses, it just kind of have you second thinking, like, am I overthinking the situation? Is it really that bad? Am
mhm,
I really going through this? Not knowing that you need to leave. Like the flashing lights are going. Like it's either you gonna leave or you're gonna be a product of your environment.
right.
One, two. And I
Absolutely.
like that's what happened with my mom.
Can you describe the turning point when your father passed away and your stepfather entered your life? And how did that change things for you, especially given all of the abuse that continued on with your grandmother?
So Shortly after my stepdad entered my life, my grandmother died when I wanna say 13, 14. She
Mhm,
passed. When my stepdad entered my life, it was not easy. Like, I was very angry. So accepting him and him wanting to be in my life, I was rejected from the start. I didn't want nothing to do with him because I felt like in my mind, it was, "Okay, here we go again. Here go another man. He gonna come in here, he gonna take over, he gonna do this, he gonna do that." And I just in my mind, I feel like the abuse was going to continue. So, I was not receptive to him. I didn't want nothing to do with him. I gave him the hardest time or whatever. It was times that he was trying to talk to me. Didn't wanna talk to him. I didn't want no relationship with him or his kids. I just wanted it to finally be me, my sister, and my mom. That's all I but the turning point was me I got sick.
mhm,
I got diagnosed with acid reflux at a young age, and that morning, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was hurting really, really bad.
mm,
So, I made it down to the other end of the hallway, which is where my parents' bedroom was at, and I called him dad. I was like, "Daddy, I'm hurting." And he jumped up and it's like he looked at me kind of confused, like, she called me daddy. Because for a long time it was Mr. Archie, Mr. Thomas.
mm,
I would not address him as dad. I didn't even want to look at him as a father figure. So
mhm.
when I called him that, he was like, "Oh my God." Like, "Oh my God, my child is in pain. What do I need to do?" And I was like, "Daddy, I'm hurting." The
Wow.
whole time that I got rushed to the hospital.
Mhm,
He was right there.
yep,
What looks and it's like that was the turning point of me and his relationship. Like we actually started bonding.
mm,
He taught me how to swim.
mhm,
Most of the cooking skills that I do possess is because of him. We
yep,
found something in common.
mhm,
Then he started asking me questions about how I was with my dad. I told him what was going on with my dad and what was going on in school because I was bullied in school as well.
mhm,
So it's like communication was the turning point for me and him.
mm,
And knowing that he was there. And he started giving me the skills that started boosting my self esteem and making me feel better about myself because I was an absolute wreck. I didn't know how to feel about myself
right.
at all. We experienced our first Christmas with him.
Mm.
Um,
And up to that point, there were no holidays, right? There were no Christmas gifts. Were there birthday gifts?
no birthdays. We didn't celebrate birthdays, nothing. It was a very cold household. Like my dad, my biological father, happy birthday. That was on time my sister, happy birthday. It wasn't no gifts, no cake, no
Was there a
laughter.
tree? I mean, was there a Christmas tree?
No,
Nothing.
nothing.
Wow.
We did not have any Christmas trees, nothing. We didn't celebrate no holidays, none. It was when I say it was a very cold household,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it was. I didn't know what affection was until my stepdad came into my life. And that was later on in my teenage years is when he came along. And that's when I started noticing my mom, like the affection between them two and can I give you a hug and give me a hug and just comfort me in my down times and just understanding that I'm not trying to be me, trying to be distant from you. I'm just trying to heal. So
Right.
my stepdad was really patient about that as well.
That's amazing. I mean, he played such a huge role in your healing process and supported you emotionally at this vulnerable time. And teenage girls, I mean, it's such a hard time. I mean, you said you were bullied in school. You had been through all of this trauma. And here he stepped in, took on a fatherly role. And how did that sort of help your mom? Like your mother had been through really the same path as you right into her adult life. He helped you in your healing process and supported you emotionally. Can you speak to how that helped your mother? Did you see any change in her during this period?
I did. I seen a big change. It's like my mom's stepped out of her cocoon.
Mm.
She, like I said, she taught herself how to drive.
Mhm.
She bought her cars. My mother actually wore a wedding ring for the first time. Like, I don't remember my mom ever wearing a wedding ring.
Yep.
She wears her wedding ring proudly. She actually speaks up now. Like, if it's something that she does not like, she will tell you, no, I don't like it. It's like she has a voice now.
Wow.
And honestly, even to this day, my mother is in her 60s and she shocks me every day
Mhm.
more and more how she just looks so comfortable and how she just looks more vibrant and happy and just the life that I want to see my mom always live. I feel like she's living it now. She's been going on vacations and cruises, and
Mhm.
that's something my mom did not do when she was with my dad. So it's just like to see her, and I'm pretty sure she's still healing. I'm pretty sure she probably still have nightmares sometimes, about this trauma that she went through with her marriage and with her mom, but she
Right.
doesn't show it.
Right.
Like, she was really good, and I'm beyond happy for her still to this day.
Yeah. Now, how did your relationship with your siblings evolve as you navigated the challenges of blending the family? So, your stepdad had some other kids from a previous relationship, and then there was you and your sister. So, how did that relationship evolve as your families sort of came together?
Oh, that was not easy as well, cause the 3 boys, Archie, Brian, and Rion, that's my stepbrother's name, they went through trauma with their mom and their grandma as well. So it's like when we all became one under one roof,
Mhm.
it was a lot of tension. A lot of chaos at first, but we learned how to communicate
Mhm.
and we learned each other trigger points. And we learned that sometimes we just need space. But communication played the biggest part of us blending our family and actually communicating to understand instead of communicating to respond played a big role.
I love
And
that. I love that.
yeah,
Communicating to understand
mm,
rather than respond. I love
right.
that.
Yeah, because I mean, I feel like some people, when you're telling people what you're going through, the first thing, and this is human nature, the first thing that people do is they automatically think of judgment instead of understanding. And they think like you're just making excuses. It's not an excuse. I'm just trying to let you know why I am the way that I am and why I feel the way that I feel. You don't have to respect it or
Mhm.
whatever, but at least understand where I'm coming from. And that played a big role in us blending our family. And like I said, initially, it wasn't all peaches and cream. Like, we fought a lot. I was just like, oh, I can't deal with this no more. I'm ready to go. But
How did your stepbrothers feel about you calling their father dad? Like, that was part of like a healing part of the healing phase for you, but was there any jealousy from them? Like, why is this girl calling our father dad? Like, was there anything like that?
it was a little jealousy at first.
Uh-huh.
It was at first. But after, I think what changed that is one day it was some little kids in our neighborhood and they were picking on my stepbrothers. So me and my baby sister, we rushed out there and they looking at us like, what y'all out here for? And I was like, y'all not gonna do anything to my brothers. Like, what are y'all doing? It's like something clicked in them like, she called me brother. Yeah, you are my brother. You're not my stepbrother. You are my brother. That's how I wanna look at you, and that's the type of relationship that I wanna build. I don't wanna put step in front of none of this because
Right.
that's not how I feel towards you. You are my brother. I am your sister. And after that moment is when the jealousy ended,
Mhm.
and everybody just kinda started becoming one like, "Oh, that's my mom. That's my dad." And that's how we still to this day, we tell people, "Oh, that's my dad." Like, a lot of people don't know that my biological dad died at 11 because when I talk about my stepfather, I don't tell him, "Oh, this is my stepdad." I introduce him as my dad. This is my father,
Mm.
and I just now, if I'm telling the story, then of course I have to bring up my dad, and some people look confused, like, "I thought this was your dad." Yes, he is, but I'm just keeping y'all up to speed so y'all don't feel lost. But yeah, that was the turning point.
Uh-huh. Now, your last name is Jones.
Mhm.
So is that the last name of your deceased father? Do you still have
Yes.
his last name? Okay. Sometimes I get questions on TikTok and Facebook. I do this Q&A online where people sort of send me questions and I give them answers. And a lot of mothers want to change the last name of their kids to the new father if like the bio dad is in jail or not paying child support or not, visiting with the kids. And I had one woman ask me actually if her 18-year-old son could take on the name of her new husband, his stepdad. So at 18, kids are emancipated, right? They can vote, they can pretty much do whatever they want to do. But she wanted to know if he could adopt the son. She wanted to have her son get his last name, which I thought was nice. If that's, you want to sort of exhibit that whole family dynamic by sort of publicly all having the same last name. Had that ever crossed your mind or would, the family changing Jones to your stepdad's last name, or is that not something you ever really thought about pursuing?
So it's funny that you said that because when my dad proposed to my mom,
Mhm.
she did pull me and my little sister to the side and she asked, she was like, "Hey, we're gonna get married. Do y'all want to change our last name?" At the moment, I was like, "No, like I'm not marrying him. You marrying him. So what I gotta change my last name for?" But then once I got older, it did cross my mind again. But I was like, having his last name is not gonna change how I feel about him.
Right.
Like I don't need his last name to show that I love him and that he's my dad.
Mm.
Like that's not needed on my end. But
Right.
it has crossed my mind before. And like I said, the way that he treats me, he doesn't consider me as a stepchild. So in my eyes, whether it's legal or not, I'm a Thomas because
Right.
that's the love that he shows me.
Right. Right. Now, can you share any strategies or coping mechanisms that helped you deal with the trauma of your past as you've sort of evolved through your journey?
One thing that I learned to do, and this may sound cliche, but writing. Writing helped me tremendously because I didn't keep it bottled up in here. I didn't keep it up here. I released it. So writing, communicating, talking about my trauma, like what I'm doing right now, talking about it. And as I got older, after I felt like this wasn't enough, I decided to get a therapist
Mhm.
and talk about it and make sure that my feelings are validated, that I'm okay. Like I said, in the Black community, for some odd reason, therapy is kind of frowned upon. Like, what do you need therapy for? But sometimes you need to hear a biased response. You got to have a biased conversation just to make sure that things that you went through, that your feelings, that they're not just void. So, and prayer, prayer. I cannot stress this enough. Prayer is what helped me through a lot of the trauma and helping me to forgive. The biggest thing with me was to forgive. Because even though my dad been gone for quite some time, I still never really forgave him for what he did and how he treated me, how he treated my mom. I
Mhm.
never forgave him for that. I can say I literally forgave him on his anniversary, April 13th, 1999. That's when he died.
Yeah.
I wrote a long letter and I prayed and I burnt the letter.
Mhm.
And that was me forgiving him.
Mhm.
And also I had to learn that forgiveness is something that you actually have to forgive them. You can't bury it and leave the hatching up. Like you have to bury everything and never bring it up in a negative way.
Right.
So
So it sounds
Prayer,
like you weren't able to really forgive him on your own. You had to pray for God's strength to help you forgive.
exactly.
That's a hard prayer to say. That is
Yeah,
a hard prayer. That's a hard prayer to pray. I mean,
yeah, and
if
you
we're
have to
being
be able
honest.
to swallow that like, "God, I'm coming to you because I need to learn how to forgive.
Mhm,
I need to learn I need to learn forgiveness, I need to learn clarity, and I need to learn understanding.
mhm,
Give me your heart
mhm,
because I need it right now, because if I'm using the heart that it is man,
mhm.
I'm not gonna forgive him.
Right,
We're human, we have emotions, like,
right.
and it's all over the place most of the time. So I had to, what's that bracelet they have? WWJD?
Yeah,
What would you
it is a
the
series. I love it. Yeah, I love
that
it.
was
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, the Bible says, we have to forgive, if you're a Christian, you don't have a choice. You're ordered to forgive, and it's hard to do. As human beings, we're flawed, and forgiveness is hard. I know in my own life, I had a toxic relationship with my dad, and finding the strength to forgive him, I didn't have it. I mean, and it took years of
yeah.
work through and spiritual growth to get the strength, find it, and receive it from God to forgive. It's just not something that can be done. It's like, oh, well, forgive and forget. I mean, that's, so cliche. You never forget, but with prayer, you're right. You're absolutely right. The forgiveness does come in time.
Mhm. Yeah, you have to literally take it one day at a time. I mean, just because you pray to God to give you the guidance and the clarity to be on the road to forgiveness, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen overnight. You literally have to put in the work, and you have to mean what you say, because once I give you that answer, you have to be ready to receive it.
Right. Right. Did you harbor any resentment against your mother for not being strong enough in your early years to sort of rescue you and your sister from the situation?
I did.
Mhm. And
I,
where do you stand
I
with your mother right now?
Me and my mom, since we had that round table talk, because I was asking her a lot of questions, I was like, why did you stay? Like, just, just what you went through alone, the abuse and everything that you went through, why did you want us to be around it? Why did you stay?
Mm,
And her answer was, I wanted you to be raised in a two-parent home. And I get it. I understand it. Like, it's so many single parents out here,
mm,
and she was raised in a single parent household. So I get it. She wanted us to live that dream. And honestly, I don't know if I would have or would not done the same. And then just for me and my own experience from being in a domestic violence relationship, I was scared to leave. I was terrified. So my mom, she expressed that too, that she was scared to leave. Where was she gonna go? What was she gonna do? She didn't want to raise us in a shelter. She
mhm,
couldn't go to my grandmother's house.
mhm.
So she pretty much popped out in her head. She had no choice but to stay.
Right.
So we had a long conversation. Me and my mom's relationship, it's never been bad, but I did kinda hold a little grudge against her because 'cause I'm like, "Mama, like, I needed you in this time and you wasn't there." And I asked her, were you not there because of fear, or were you not there because you was trying to provide for her? Like, what was your reason of not being there when I needed you, when I was coming home from being bullied for the day, or just the stuff that I was going through with my dad, like, and my grandmother when we went over her house during breaks and stuff like that, why you wasn't there? And she was like, I tried to be there as much as I could, but I had to provide. Like, your dad wasn't really providing anything, so I had to work. Y'all needed. Y'all are two young girls. Y'all needed stuff. Y'all was involved in activities at school. Who was gonna pay for that?
Right.
So the resentment came, the resentment left once we had that conversation. And I can honestly say after we had that talk, which happened when I was like 20, 21, or whatever. We had that talk, and our relationship has been actually better ever since I released my thoughts on the relationship and everything that I went through in the past.
Rachel, how long have you been in therapy for?
I started therapy in 2021
Mhm.
and I did that for like a year almost. It was
Okay.
almost a year. And then I stopped because I felt like I was just kind of over everything. And then financial reasons, I quit going to therapy. And then I resumed back actually 2 months ago.
Okay. And with the therapy, are there any sort of lessons or insights from your past that you feel like the therapy has played a role in?
I do feel like, well, for one, I'm glad that I did go back to therapy.
Mhm.
I'm just put that out there. I'm really glad I did because it was other things that I needed to work on with for as myself. Excuse me, like self-esteem. I
Mhm.
started feeling myself being a little bit insecure about some things because I started thinking about the past. So since I've started back going to therapy, I have noticed a different light about myself. Like now, sounds crazy, but actually pursuing my dreams and stuff like that. Like I want to be a content creator,
Mhm.
which is why I started TikTok to get back on that journey. So I mean, therapy has helped a lot. It has helped me realize a lot. It made me realize that I have an inner strength that I didn't even know that I had.
You
True.
absolutely do. You
And,
absolutely do.
and like everybody's telling me, oh, you have this light about you. You're so it's your vibe, it's your energy. And honestly, that part of me I kept sheltered because I was like, I don't know if I need to show this around everybody, but my therapist told me, I was telling her about what I wanted to do as far as like TikTok and stuff like that. She was like, maybe you should use TikTok as like a visual journal. Maybe you should do that. And that's pretty much what I do now, like besides cooking lives, but sometimes I just get on there and vent and voice my opinions. And it's so crazy how many people and how many comments I get that is feeling the exact same way
Oh, yeah.
that I'm feeling. But I have to thank my therapist because my therapist was like, maybe you should try that. Maybe you should do that. And look at me now, 12.5 subscribers.
It's crazy. It's crazy. You are just helping and blessing so many people. And you've got a new YouTube channel that you've created it and you're going to be adding to. And I know everybody's just thrilled to see what you've got coming down the pike in terms of content. I mean, it's an amazing journey. So, what advice would you give to others who are dealing with similar abusive family histories and are striving for healing and acceptance?
The first thing I'm gonna say is leave. That's the first thing I'm gonna say. I know it's easier said than done, but leave. You can make it on your own.
Mhm.
You can strive. You can grow. Talk. Get you a community or whatever, some trusted people that you can go to for help. Cause my mom she didn't have a community. When they say it literally takes a village,
Mhm.
it takes a village. But you have to find those people that you're able to console in
Mhm.
to help you get through it. Even to help you leave. But that's the first thing is leave. Well, actually, no, that's the second thing. The first thing I'm gonna say is acknowledge that abuse is not okay.
Right.
It's not okay. Love is not supposed to hurt. Even if it's verbal abuse, it's not supposed to hurt.
Right.
People that cannot see the good in you you don't need them in your circle.
Right.
Leave.
Mhm.
Exit the situation. Make you a strategy on how you're gonna leave. Once you do that, make sure you always keep God first.
Mhm.
Make sure you pray and make sure that you order, ask Him to order your steps and give you guidance.
Right.
That's the third thing.
Mhm.
And also, don't be scared to talk. Do not be scared to communicate. Don't be scared to go to therapy. If you feel like you cannot do this alone, go to therapy. It is nothing wrong with it. They have virtual appointments. They have all type of therapy out here. Even if you go to a shelter, I know shelters. Some shelters have therapy sessions that you could take advantage of. And once you leave, don't go there.
Mm, mhm.
Cut off all communication.
Right,
Not even, hey, how you doing? I'm just like, cut off all communication. Even if you have to change your number,
right.
turn it off.
Mhm.
That's
What
some of the things.
what advice do you have for people who are in the process of forming or adjusting to a blended family on their own?
So one thing that we used to do as a family is once, maybe twice a week, we would have family dinners
Mhm.
together because we was all involved in activities and stuff like that. So twice a week, we would do family dinners. At the family dinners, whatever you wanted to say it.
Mhm.
Even if you felt like it was gonna hurt somebody's feelings, let's
Mhm.
talk about it. We
Right.
talked about our days. We talked about if me and one of my siblings had an altercation, we would talk about it. Another thing that we used to do, and this would sound so funny, but if one of us got in trouble, we would have this thing called court. So my dad would be the judge, my mom would be the bailiff, and the other sibling would defend you or whatever. Set up. And sometimes if we had other people over, they would be the jury. And our job was to plead their case. Just saying like the wrong, like, you know, I did mess up. What?
That kinda make a great TikTok video. Kinda like acting it out.
We do that all the time, but communication, even those little fun moments, court or whatever, it try to make time for each other.
Mhm.
Make time for each other. Make sure that y'all are able to communicate. Have those nights where you can be like, you know what? We're gonna get some snacks. We're gonna have some family time.
Mhm.
We're gonna talk. How's y'all day? What's been going on? And also, watch what you say because you can't take back words.
Right.
You can, regardless if you say you're sorry or whatever the case may be, you can't take that back. So be mindful of what you say. Communicate, understand. Don't communicate, just respond. Most of them, a family that prays together stays together.
Amen.
So, yeah, it's going to be a challenge. Just know it's not going to be all peaches and cream at first because you're blending personalities, you're blending different mindsets. So you have to take that into consideration that everybody, regardless if y'all a blended family or whatever, everybody's not going to see your point of view. So sometimes you got to agree to disagree. There's nothing wrong with that. And just remember that it's more than one way to skin a cat.
True,
Everybody's going to have their own ideas.
true. So, final thoughts, closing thoughts. What does acceptance, mean to you, and how has it played a role in your family's story?
So, oh, acceptance. That's a crazy word because I feel like everybody.
It really is a crazy word. In my mind, it sort of like comes back to that serenity prayer you hear, like, God, give me the courage to accept the things I can change, the courage to accept the things I change, the acceptance to change the thing. Well, how does it go? Let me think. Lord, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, I mean, to me, so acceptance, right? It's sort of like, it is almost sort of like a pat word, like, well, acceptance, accept what, right? I mean, acceptance in terms of a changing family dynamic over time from trauma to peace and graduating sort of from peace into accepting the past. I mean, this is part of your story.
Right.
It speaks to the understanding that our story doesn't end at any
Mhm.
given point. Life is just a continuing journey, right?
Right.
Accept the things we cannot change. You can't change your past, right? No one can change
Yes.
their past. But what you can do is use your past, and you're doing this, with TikTok, your new YouTube channel you're launching. You can use your past to bless people and have a positive outcome. Even bad things, I think, can be used for good ultimately. But not until you reach a point of acceptance. I mean, do you agree with that?
I do. I do. I feel like personally, and it's just coming from a personal standpoint, I feel like that you can either let your trauma consume you,
Mhm.
or you could let your trauma, and you could take your trauma and you could turn it around and make it into something. That's why you have people starting shelters. Most of the people that started shelters was because either they done been homeless
Mhm.
or they have been in abusive relationships and stuff like that. You got counselors that maybe when they was growing up, they wanted just somebody to talk to. So they decided to, what? Since I didn't have nobody to talk to, I can come and counsel so people can come to me. If trauma can I say this? Trauma can make you go in different directions. Like I said, it's either you're gonna let it consume you or you're gonna turn it around and you're gonna turn it to a positive light. Initially, like in my early 20s, I'm not even gonna lie, I did let trauma consume me. And I used it as a crutch and I sheltered myself. I used it as an excuse all the time, but then I got tired and I was like, you know what? I can do that. I
Mhm.
can do this.
Mhm.
I can build myself up. I can get myself together regardless of what I've been through. I can be a light. I can have somebody to talk to. I can share my story. What's stopping me from doing it but myself? Because I was letting all that trauma and all that fear consume me to the
Mhm.
point that I didn't want to be a light. I just wanted to like, you know what? Look, I went through it. Yeah, I went through it. So what? And I was looking at it in a negative way instead of thinking like, you know what? I could turn this around. So slowly but surely, between God, Kathleen, my stepdad, I started looking at things in a positive way, and I started slowly turning my life around. Am I perfect now? Not by a long shot, but I know my journey is not over. And I'm still constantly coming up with new ways and new things that I could do to build on top of that trauma in a positive way, not a negative way.
Mhm. So, what final words of encouragement and what message would you like to share with others who are on a similar journey of healing and embracing a blended family?
Honestly, blended families it's not easy.
Mhm.
It's not easy. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of patience. Just know Rome was not built overnight. But the love, the actual love, will get you through those tough times. It will get you through those rough times. And if it's meant to be, it will be. And the family will be beautiful. You just have to put the work into it,
Mhm.
period. Like, you have to do the work. Yes, you can pray about it. You want God to bless your family, but if you're not putting in the work, God is not gonna put that blessing in that family.
Mhm.
It's not gonna blend well. And mostly you have to understand you can't force love. It has to be unconditional. It has to be on it, it has to be received.
Mhm.
If you don't have those things, a blend. family is not going to work.
Mm, awesome. Rachel, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your Saturday to come on. I'm going to put the link to your YouTube channel in the show notes to the episode. So if anyone wants to find Rachel, click the link below. I'm also going to throw your TikTok handle in the show notes down below so people can tune into your lives and find out more about what you've got going on in terms of content. Thanks again so much. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the Wright Family Law Divorce Podcast. Remember, the information shared in our episodes is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice. Stay informed. Stay empowered. This is the Wright Family Law Divorce Podcast.